What's up, my bro? Tundrum here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be showing you my Bruvac the Grandiloquent EDH Commander deck. Now this deck is entirely focused around Mill. I occasionally play Mill and Commander every so often, the mere Mill, so Mono Blue Mill is a bit new to me, but I reckon this deck is going to perform greatly. I've already done some test runs of it, and it is very efficient, very fun to play, and just an all-round great deck. Not crazy expensive or anything, very good. It's not competitive, but it is relatively solid power level and can be very effective. And there are certain combos in the deck that let you go off as early as turn 4 and mill out one or multiple opponents. So without further ado, let's get into the list by looking at the commander. Bruvac the Grandiloquent. He's a 3-mana 1/4 legendary creature human advisor, and if an opponent were mill, which means put cards from the top of their library into their graveyard, one or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead. He is so insane. As long as we have him on the field, all our opponent's decks are essentially halved, and it essentially makes, instead of milling 100 cards, in fact it's more like 90 because they draw cards at the start of the game as well, and only have 99 in their deck, and that is only one card, but it can make the difference. The deck's halved and becomes less than a standard deck in terms of amount of cards, and you can build them out so much easier. So our goal is to play him, keep him on the field, and then play cards, protection cards like counter spells, defense cards, to stop him from dying, while we play turbo mill cards to absolutely decimate our opponent's libraries. Now this video, it's going to be split into 4 sections. Section 1, the mill section. Section 2, the interaction and protection section. Section 3, the value generation section. And Section 4, the mana base, which is pretty easy in a mono-color deck. So, without further ado, let's get into the list with Section 1, Mill. First up, we are running Fort Scour. Fort Scour, really solid card. 1 mana, draws a card, and makes target player mill 2. Doesn't seem too efficient, but the fact that it replaces itself and can mill 4 when Bruvac is on the field as well, it can make a difference. Replaces itself, mills out an opponent, helps mill them out at instant speed. Pretty solid card, definitely worth the include. And yeah, we can also hold up interaction. If they do nothing, we can then flash this in. Next up, we have Hedron Crab. Super solid card. It's a 1 mana 0/2 crab with landfall, so whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we get target player to put the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. This can generate so much value over the game, milling 20-30 cards. Bruvac, with that starts milling 6. Such a great card. Next up, we're running Dream Twist. This is one of the weaker cards in the deck. Not OP, but it is definitely worth the include, probably. In fact, I actually think I forgot to put Soul Ring in this deck, so maybe cut this and add in Soul Ring. But 1 mana makes target player mill 3, and we can flashback it for 2. This can be a nice mill card. Mill for 3 earlier on, late game flash it back, mill them for another 6. Really solid. Because of Bruvac, it's double. I'm just going to say, about 50% of the time, I'd say we keep Bruvac on the field. It's really nice. Next up, we've got Mind's Aglow. 1 mana sorcery. Join forces. Starting with you, each player may pay X amount of mana, and then each player draws X cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. This may not be a mill card, but if players end up paying 7, even just 5, 6 mana, but sometimes they'll pay 10 or 11 mana, as well as giving you cards, it may give them cards as well, but it's vastly shrinking down their library, running quite a few cards like this, because it does help mill them out quite a lot. Coming up next, we're running Merfolk Secret Keeper. Very solid card. It's a 1 mana 0/4, but then it also has a Venture. 1 target player mills for 4 cards. So we can play this, mill them for 4, or if we have a commander, 8 cards, which is a heck of a lot. Just shows the power level of it. And then we can play it as a 0/4, which is a really nice blocker to help us stay in the game and survive those earlier turns when people are threatening to kill us by damage before we can mill them out. Solid card. Coming up next, we're running Overwhelmed Apprentice. 1 mana 1/2. When it enters, each opponent mills 2, which is pretty nice. And we get a Scry 2. It can block off little tokens and annoying 1/1s. Can do a bit of damage if we need be, help other people kill off the opponents. And it gives us that nice mill effect and lets us Scry to manipulate the top of our library to get to our more powerful mill bombs like earlier on. Coming up next, we're running Manic Scribe. This is a really solid card. 2 mana 0/3. When it enters, each opponent mills 3 cards. This is also very nice, mills them out. is a nice blocker. And if we happen to have Delirium online, it becomes an absolute beast. It says at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if you have Delirium, which is 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, that opponent mills 3 cards. Delirium's easy to achieve because there's lots of community mill things that mill us a little bit as well. We're not enough to threaten to mill us out, but enough to, mill us a bit, so we will get Delirium and mill them out really quickly. Next up, we have Vision Schemes. Really solid card. Well, no, it's not actually that good, because it does give all of the enemies 2 cards each as well, but I think it is worth the include. Mills them a bit, replaces the cards for us, helps us get more interaction and defense. Decent card. Maybe not quite with the include, but I think it probably is. Next up, we're running Folio of Fancies. This is a pretty solid card. It's a 2-mana artifact, makes players have no maximum hand size. We can pay XX and tap it to make each player draw X cards. Gives us cards and helps mill them out a bit. Does give them cards, but that's not too big of a deal. And for 3 mana, each opponent puts a number of cards from the top of the library into their graveyard equal to the number of cards in their hand. Nice mill engine, solid card to sink mana into. Next up, we have Drowned Secrets. Drowned Secrets, really solid card. This is one of the best cards in the deck. 2 mana enchantment, and whenever we cast a blue spell, target player mills for 2 cards. This is so solid, because all our cards in our deck are blue. We're going to be playing so many blue cards, and with all the community hand refills, this will get us more cards. And then, even though our enemies are getting them, we're going to mill them out so much quicker, and it will give us more fodder to help mill them. We then get just mill, and if we have a commander, that suddenly becomes 4 cards, and this just decimates their library. This card's so insane. And also, keep in mind all the community draw effects make the enemies least likely to target you because you were giving them cards. It is a nice little politics thing in multiplayer EDH if you're playing that way. Really solid. Coming up next, we're running Kami of the Crescent Moon. 2 mana 1/3, legendary creature spirit, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an extra card. Gives us more cards, keeps us going, because we're a bit like a burn deck. We run out of cards very quickly, so the refill often benefits us more than the opponents, and it helps them mill out their deck a little bit quicker. This will normally, over the course of the game, decrease their deck by 6 or 7, maybe even 8 or 9 cards, and it is also quite a viable blocker. A 1/3 actually blocks a lot of things. Coming up next, we're running Ventress Gargoyle. Ventress Gargoyle is so solid. It's a 2 mana 5/4 flying. It can't attack unless the defending player has 7 or more cards in their graveyard. We do this so easily, and it can't block unless we have 4 or more cards in hand. We also can, with all the card draw, do this very easily. So it's often just a 2 mana 5/4 flying, plus it taps to mill each player for 1. And when we've got Bruvac, that becomes 2 cards. That can actually become quite a nice mill engine, believe it or not. And yeah, just a 2 mana 5/4. Who does not flying? Who does not run that? Next up, we're running Howling Mine. Solid card. At the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine's untapped, 90% of the time it will be, each player draws an extra card. Sometimes we can manipulate this to just make us draw cards, but most of the time it's just a community draw thing, helps them mill out, gives us a bit of cards as well as it does give them cards, like I said, but the cards normally benefit us more and helps mill them out. Coming up next, we're running Mind Crank. Mind Crank is a 2 mana artifact that says whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that much. You may think we're not doing very much damage to them, so why run this? But the thing is, if we're playing EDH, which is normally around about 4 player, this will often mean the players are attacking each other, and this will really mill them by a lot, and often by 10, 20 cards, and help mill them out a lot quicker. Plus, with our commander, this mills double as well. Coming up next, we're running Wall of Lost Forts. Similar to Merfolk's Secret Keeper, 2 mana 0/4 Defender, nice blocker, and when it comes into play, target player mills 4. With our commander, that becomes 8 cards. 8 cards, very big chunk of their deck, about a 10th of their deck, or more like 12th, same thing. Nah, just kidding. No, it's actually very nice mill engine, and this is definitely worth the include. Coming up next, we're running Sphinx's Tutelage, really solid card. 3 mana, whenever we draw a card, which we'll be drawing a lot of with the community draw steps, target opponent mills 2. If they're both non-land cards that share a colour, repeat this process. So this can become so solid, mill them out by tons, we keep drawing cards, do this over and over, so insane, and it also has that nice 6 mana draw and discard a card for a mana sink and help them mill out. Coming up next, we're running Psychic Corrosion, 3 mana, whenever we draw a card, each opponent mills 2, similar to the Sphinxes, except it mills each opponent, but doesn't have that nice sheer colour upside. So they're both very viable includes, definitely worth putting in the deck, so insane, especially in this deck. Coming up next, we're running Fraying Sanctity. This card is so solid. 3 mana enchanted player, and at that player's end step, that player mills X, where X is the number of cards put into their graveyard from anywhere this turn. Let's say we mill them, with our commander, this can often be 10, 15 cards in a turn. Then this triggers, then they mill that, plus another that again, because of Bruvac. Suddenly we've milled them 45 cards in a turn. So powerful. If we enchant this on a player, they kind of just lose the game, honestly. So powerful. Next up we have Teferi's Tutelage, similar to Psychic Corrosion. It says when it enters we draw a card and then discard a card, and whenever we draw a card, target opponent mills 2. So this is nice, automatically mills them for 2 when it enters, and every turn we're going to be milling them for 2, plus with the community drawer, that's going to help mill them for even more. With a commander, it mills it for even more again, so powerful. This will often mill 40, 50 cards over the course of the game. Next up we have Riddle Keeper. 3 mana 1/4 Homunculus. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller mills 2. This incentivizes opponents not to attack you. When you do, it gets, for every creature they swing at you, it gets a nice bonus, milling them out. And it is a very solid body. It is definitely worth the include, very solid body card. Coming up next, we're running Windfall. Windfall, essential include in most blue commander decks anyway, but it is even better in this deck. It says each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way, Really nice, mills out our opponents by quite a few cards, normally 6 or 7, refreshes everyone's hands, can get to our bombs much easier, very solid card. Yeah, it's just so good. It's worth the include in any deck, but in this one it's even better. Coming up next, we're running Jace's Archivist. 3 mana 2/2, and essentially we can pay 1 and tap it to get a Windfall. That's essentially what it does. You may not think this is amazing, but we can keep sifting through to get our OP mill bombs like Fraying Sanctity and many you'll yet to see, and then this, if we're doing it every turn, this is going to hit them for 6 or 7 cards every turn. Suddenly they're actually in danger of milling out. This card alone can mill 30, 40 cards. Really solid. Next up, we're running Font of Mythos. 4 mana artifact. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws 2 additional cards. Pretty much just a double Howling Mine, double the cost, double the draw. Make sure we never run out of cards. Gives our enemies cards, like I said, that's not the best, but we have so much protection, we normally get a draw into that to help protect us as well. And really helps them mill them out. Making them draw 3 cards a turn, that's a 33rd of their deck every turn. Really solid. Coming up next, we're running Dreamborn Muse. 4 mana 2/2, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of cards in his or her hand. With all our community draw, everyone's hands are going to be full, and this is going to mill them 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards every turn. If we have commander, double that. Super good. Next up, we're running Patient Rebuilding. 3 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard, and we draw a card for each land put into the graveyard this way. This is super solid, helps mill them out, keeps our hand full. Every turn, if we repeat this, and we get the double mill as well, then we draw so many cards off it. Very solid bomb. It just generates so much value. This card's even good outside of a mill deck. So powerful. Next up, we're running Stitcher Giralf. Classic EDH card, very powerful. 5 mana 3/4, pay 3 and tap it. Each player mills 3. We exile up to 2 creature cards put into graveyards this way, and we get an X blue zombie where X is the total power of the cards exiled this way. Helps mill out our opponents and can make massive zombies every turn. Get huge blockers so they're going to never attack, and sometimes even threaten killing them with damage. OP card. Next up, we're running Jace, Memory Adept. 5 mana 4 loyalty. We +1 draw a card, and target player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Nice card refill, helps mill them out. 0 mana. Target player mills 10 cards. This is so solid. If we get this, boom, with our commander, that's 20 cards every turn. Even alone, 10 cards is a lot. This is so insane. And -7, any number of target players each draw 20 cards. This will give us a massive amount of cards to help finish them off, and we can also target our opponents to help mill them out as well. Jason Memory Adept, very solid, probably the best card in this deck. Just Mind Sculptor, you might want to put him in actually, but he is very expensive. Coming up next, we're running Traumatize. 3 mana sorcery, target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into his or her graveyard. You may think this is a pretty solid card, yeah, I'm going to run this, but with our commander, this is going to mill double, so it mills half, let's say they mill 45 cards, double that, 90 cards, boom, deck down the drain. This is essentially, target player mills their whole deck. If they've got lucky enough to have an odd number of cards, they mill down to 1 card, but then they're essentially dead anyway. We need to run this. We're running Tutor's just to search for this card. This card is so OP. Next up we have Keening Stone, another busted mill bomb. 6 mana artifact, and we pay 5 and tap it. The target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. We X is the number of cards in their graveyard. This is so solid, especially in our deck. But for 11 mana seems steep, but if we can do this every turn, this is because we're milling them out already. This is going to mill 20, 30, 40 cards. With our commander, double it. This is often just tap, target player loses. So OP, you need to use this. Coming up next, we're running Well of Ideals. 6 mana enchantment. When it enters, we draw 2 cards. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an extra, and at the beginning of your draw step, you draw 2 extra. Really nice, gives us a ridiculous amount of card advantage, 3 cards every turn, and we draw 2 when it enters, and it helps mill out our opponents a little bit as well. Coming up next, we're running Jace's Mindseeker, 6 mana 4/4 flying. When it enters, target opponent mills 5, and then you may cast an instant or sorcery card from among them without paying its mana cost. This is so solid. A massive, nice blocking body, maybe offensive if you want to. Mills an enemy for a good chunk of cards. And if we mill something like a Cyclonic Rift, or, that's not good casting, Expropriate, or something along those lines, boom, this is such a bomb. You need to run this. Next up, we're running Fleet Swallower. This is another insane bomb. Pretty much everything CMC 5 and up is like game-winning power in this deck. It's a 7 mana 6/6 fish, but when it attacks, target player mills half their deck. Even if we just get... It is hard to keep this alive. We do have tons of protection, but enemies are just going to all-out target this, because if it attacks, target player kind of just loses the game if we have a commander. Even if we don't, it's still milling half their deck, and yeah, this card is just so powerful. Like, this is, like, more powerful than an Eldrazi Titan in our deck, honestly. So strong. Now we're on to Section 2, Interaction and Protection. First up, we have Swan Song. 1 mana instant, counters target enchantment, instant or sorcery spell. Its controller does get a 2/2 bird, but 1 mana for a counter spell that efficient, definitely worth the include. This is a really solid card, goes into most blue decks, super efficient in ours, helps protect our commander, all of our OP mill bombs, just really solid card. They do get a 2/2, such a minor downside, busted card. Next up, we're running Jace's Phantasm. 1 mana 1/1 flying, but it gets +4/+4 as long as an opponent has 10 or more cards in his or her graveyard. So this is just, most of the time, by turn 3 or 4, this is just going to be 1 mana 5/5 flying. Who's not going to run that? Amazing blocker, makes it nearly impossible for the opponents to attack you. Definitely worth the include. Also nice offensive if one of them's on low life and you want to kill them from damage. Next up, we're running Counterspell. Who doesn't run Counterspell in a mono blue deck? 2 mana, counters any spell. Insane card, best Counterspell ever printed. Debatably, there's better versions like Mana Drain, that's just strictly better. But that's $100, you're not going to be running that, realistically, unless you've already got it. But yeah, it's super insane card, definitely worth the include. Yeah, Counterspell is Counterspell. Next up, we're running Arcane Denial. 2 mana instant, counters target spell. Its controller may draw 2 cards at the beginning of their next upkeep, and we draw a card at the beginning of your next upkeep. Nice, replaces itself. It does get 2 mana counter, very solid. It does let them draw 2 cards, but if they do choose to draw it, that's nice, helping them mill out a little bit. It is worth the include. Really nice protection. That draw such a minor downside, especially considering we're mill. Next up, we're running Fog Bank. 2 mana 0/4 wall, defender flying, and it's immortal during combat, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to it. This is such a good, can block anything, anywhere, anytime. It's only a 2-drop, not that big of a deal if your enemy chooses to remove it, even just spend like a lightning bolt on it, still worth it. Very solid card, definitely worth the include. Negate. Negate's a very solid card. 2 mana counters target non-creature spell. Most massive bombs and annoying threats that are counterable, and like interaction are non-creature anyway. So 2 mana instantly counters a non-creature spell, especially in our deck. Definitely worth the include. Just really solid card. Next up, you all knew it was on the list. Cyclonic Rift. 2 mana instant. Bounces target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, but it has Overload for 7. Who hasn't seen Cyclonic Rift? It's an essential card in Commander. It may be like really expensive right now. Wizards should really just start reprinting it at all the Commander precons. It'll drop in price and everyone will be happy. But yeah, just super. You need to run it in your deck if you want it to be competitive. It's just a really solid bomb. If you cast it for its Overload, you're in a game-winning position. Very solid card, one of the best spells in Commander, possibly even the game. Next up we have Pact of Negation, 0 mana instant that counters target spell, and at the beginning of our next upkeep, if we don't pay 5, we lose the game. So this is it's not the best, but if we, let's say, playing our, I forgot the name of it, the 5 mana mill half an opponent's deck that'll mill them out, the extra 5 mana in your upkeep isn't going to matter. This is really solid card, probably worth the include. Propaganda. Propaganda, really nice protection. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. This is really solid, makes it hard for enemies to attack you with swarms, and if they do, they have to pay a lot of mana. Makes it so your enemies don't attack you, just an all-out, very solid card, worth the include in any blue deck, even better in this one. Coming up next in the list, we are running an insane mono blue card, Archmage's Charm. 3 mana instant, we choose one, counter a spell, draw 2 cards, or we can choose target player, so this can also help mill those last few cards as well, or gain control of target non-land permanent with CMC cost 1 or less. Really solid card, has so many options for a mere 3 mana, nice protection, nice card advantage, and can steal any massive tokens or annoying 1-drops. Fierce Guardianship. Really solid instant. If we control our commander, we can cast it without paying its mana cost. We get a counter target non-creature spell. This is so good. If we have a commander, boom, it just comes out of nowhere, counters any annoying interaction. And 3 mana to counter a non-creature spell on its own is not bad either. Very solid card. You need to be running this. Just essential. It's going to go in all blue decks after its printing in the last commander set. Yeah, it's just OP. Didn't say please. 3 mana instant, counters a spell, its controller mills free, very solid, 3 mana counter spell, not the best rate, but still nice protection, and the fact that it mills free definitely makes it worth the include. Very solid card, just an all-round, yeah, good card. We're also running Fort Collapse, exact same thing, just a different card, so we're running both, of course. Very solid. Next up, we're running Force of Negation. 3 mana instant. If it's not our turn, we may exile a blue card from our hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. And it counters target non-creature spell and exiles it. This is similar to Fierce Guardianship. Really nice to get your opponent out of nowhere, stop their annoying interaction. And we can also hard cast it to counter something. Very OP card, definitely worth the include. Coming up next, we're running Imprisoned in the Moon. Imprisoned in the Moon, very OP, essential card. Enchants a creature, land, or planeswalker, and turns it into a colourless land that loses everything else. Enchant this on a commander, and it's shut down permanently, or at least until they can deal with the enchantment. And it can also deal with any annoying planeswalkers, other creatures, or lands, and just turn them into a land. Very solid card. Yeah, I reckon it's so underrated. You don't actually see it seeing that much play. It's so essential in Commander. Silent Arbiter. This card is so busted in our deck. We're not going to be attacking because we're aimed to sit back and mill them out. So this is a 4 mana 1/5 that says no more than one creature can attack each combat and no more than one creature can block each combat. So your enemies can only ever attack you with one creature at a time. This is so solid. Makes it very hard for them to kill you and just all-round great card. It's also a nice blocker as well. Now we've got Teferi, Master of Time, new OP Teferi from M2021. 3 mana, free loyalty. We may activate loyal abilities anytime we want, so we can +1 to draw a card, then discard a card. -3 to make target creature we don't control phase out, and -10 to get 2 extra turns. In Commander, this is so good because it's 4-player normally. We're going to get so many activations off when we can get the extra turns. He just becomes so busted. In 4-player Commander, I think people understand how powerful he is. You need to run him in any blue deck in 4-player Commander. OP card. Now we've got Aetherize. 4 mana instant, returns all attacking creatures to the owner's hand. This is so good, can repel any major attack and bounce all the stuff back to their hand. This is a very solid card, definitely worth the include. Can save us from death or a really bad trades on an attack, and it repels, if it's a massive attack, all the creatures back to the hand and completely set back an opponent. This card is very, very powerful and worth the include in most blue decks. And finally, in the interaction section, we have Cryptic Command. 4 mana instant, we get to choose 2, counter a spell, return target permanent to its owner's hand, tap all creatures your opponents control, or draw a card. Really nice, can stop an opponent from attacking you, draw you cards, bounce stuff, and counter spell. For 4 mana to get 2 of these options, so much value. Cryptic Command is probably one of the best blue cards of all time. Very busted, you need to be running this. Now we're on to section 3, value generation cards. There's not actually much in this section. First up, we've got Mystical Tutor. 1 mana instant, searches our library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, and put it on top of our library. We choose for one of our I forgot the name of it. 5 mana, mill out half an opponent's library. Boom, next turn we mill out an opponent. This card's so solid, can search for any of our bombs, any of our protection. All round great card, with the include in most decks anyway. Very good on ours as well. Visions of Beyond. 1 mana instant, draw a card, but if a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, we get to draw 3 cards instead. So powerful. It's most of the time just an Ancestral Recall, and who doesn't run Ancestral Recall in their deck? Busted card, definitely worth the include. Snapcaster Mage. 2 mana, 2/1 with Flash. When it enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery card in our graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. Very solid, flash it in, nice body, then get any of our instants or sorceries back. Essential card, you need to be running this. It is very expensive. In fact, you don't need to be running it. It is very expensive, but very solid if you can afford it. Next up, we have Undead Alchemist. This is so powerful. 4 mana, 4/2. Whenever an opponent a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it and get a 2/2 zombie, and whenever a zombie we control deals damage to our opponent, prevent the damage and mill that many cards. This is so insane. Makes a huge army of blocking zombies and can swarm over, mill out their whole decks, make more zombies. This is debatably the best card in the deck. This card is so strong, you have to run it. No doubt, busted card. Next up, we've got Diluvian Primordial. 7 mana, 5/5 flying, Avatar, and when it enters the battlefield for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. This can often get you 3 OP sorceries and just win you the game. Essential card, need to be running it. Blue bomb, very powerful. And finally in this section, we're running Into the Story. Into the Story, very solid card. 7 mana instant, we draw 4 cards, but it costs 3 less to cast if an opponent has 7 or more cards in their graveyard, which is very easy. So this is just 4 mana, draw 4 cards, insane card, definitely worth the include. And now we're on to section 4, Mana Base. Now the mana base in this deck is very simple. I just suggest running a Castle Ventress, nice card. Magosi the Water Veil. This can often you sacrifice one of your turns and then later on redeem it in for an extra turn. This can be a nice game-winning card if you don't have much planned on your next turn. Mystic Sanctuary are very solid. Enters tapped, but if we control 3 or more other islands, we get enters untapped and we get to return an instant or sorcery from our graveyard to our hand. Very solid. Coral Atoll, nice bounce land, and Oboro Palace in the Clouds. Pretty much just an island that can protect itself. The rest just fill in with 32 islands, And that's your deck complete. Make any adjustments you need to. For example, I forgot Soul Ring, so you definitely want to put that in, and a few other cards. Outside of that, yeah, that's about it. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.